يقول قال الله جل جلاله والمصطفى الهادي ولا أتأول وجميع آيات الصفات أمرها. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله، أما بعد، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. عن كل ما يتخيل قبحا لمن نبذ القرآن وراءه، وإذا استدل يقول قال الأخطل. والمؤمنون يرون حقا ربهم وإلى السماء بغير كيف ينزل.
Brother, you missed me yesterday. He goes, Salaam alaikum, brother. He goes, how come you don't make takfir on the rulers? Yeah, how come you don't make takfir on the rulers? I thought to myself, you know what, yeah? This issue has not really been dealt with for a while, innit? You know the Khawarij, or the people who make takfir on the people unjustly. They say so-and-so is a kafir unjustly. Don't bring you an ayah. Allah said, and this is the ayah they always bring, and this is the ayah they always bring, and this is the ayah they always bring. وَمَنْ لَمْ يَحْكُمْ بِمَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْكَافِرُونَ. They say, Allah said, whoever does not judge by what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down, i.e. the Quran, right? Whoever doesn't judge by what Allah sent down, فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْكَافِرُونَ. And this person is a kafir. And this is the ayah they always bring, and this is the ayah they always bring.
هذا كفر. قال جل وعلا ومن لم يحكم بما أنزل الله فأولئك هم الكافرون. هذا كفر. قال جل وعلا ومن لم يحكم بما أنزل الله فأولئك هم الكافرون. هذا كفر. قال جل وعلا ومن لم يحكم بما أنزل الله فأولئك هم الكافرون.
Put your hand up if you've heard of Sheikh Salih al-Fawzan. I don't care where you are, I want you to put your hand up if you've heard of him. Right, most of us have, right? For those of you who haven't, if you don't know, get to know. I'm not even going to try and explain to you who he is. We say ghaniyun an ta'rif. He's too known to be known. Yeah, like, how can you not know Sheikh Salih al-Fawzan? You know what I'm saying? You need to check your manager. You don't know the Sheikh. That's what they would say. So the point is, he's one of the most prestigious scholars in the entire world. Most prestigious scholars of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. He stands and he defends the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. He's the one that Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen rahimahullah said after him. He said when he was asked who should we go to after you, and he was one of the people that he mentioned to go to after him. If you take that ayah as apparent, you think to yourself, right, okay, the president of so-and-so Muslim country is not ruling by the Quran, he's ruling by democracy. Or he's only got, you know what I'm saying? So you think to yourself, right, okay, he's not judging by what Allah sent down, so that means that he is now he's a kafir. But I'm saying that's not how the Quran works. Anyone who doesn't judge by anything and whatever Allah sent down, meaning Allah sent down rulings and legislation pertaining to marriage, so you have to judge by Allah's law and that. Allah sent down rulings and legislation pertaining to business, you have to judge by Allah's law and that. Allah sent down rulings and legislation how to raise your children, judge by that. And Allah also sent down rulings and legislation how to judge a country.
Now, this individual and those like him, they either have a very, very low understanding of the Arabic language and Islamic sciences in general, or they're very deceptive. And with individuals like this, it's probably a bit of both. He obviously doesn't understand that there are various manifestations of al-hukm bighayri ma anzal Allah. One of them being al-hukm, right? Tahakum and tahkim. And these are just three, right? And they have different rulings, right? They're not all the same. So when he says, or when he cites the statement of Ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala anhuma, he's mentioning within a specific manifestation under certain circumstances, right? And then the deception lies in when he just constrains the entire application of the ayah to just this specific manifestation under certain circumstances, right? And what's interesting is that the people that he praises and the people that he looks up to, they don't say this, right? Where did he get this from?
How to judge between people in a country. So that means any type of thing that Allah sent down, whatever Allah sent down, you have to judge by all of it. To the point where Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala said that to the Sahaba, according to this verse, a judge, this verse would apply to a man and two children come to him. And each one has writing, and they say, judge between us who's got the better handwriting. That man has to judge by Allah's law. According to the Sahaba, that man will be considered a judge. So that means, according to these people, if that man, his heart becomes soft for a second, and he gives the wrong judgment towards another kid because he likes another kid, and he says, your handwriting's better, even though it was worse, then he became a kafir. So you're going to become a kafir just because you tell someone that your handwriting is bad?
Another straw man, right? He's putting forward the notion, and he's really trying hard to hammer this point home, that all manifestations of al-hukm bighayri ma anzal Allah are one. And it's really important for you to notice this, right? Because this is where he makes all these jumps to calling people khawarij, calling people this and that, right? He has to establish to his audience that al-hukm bighayri ma anzal Allah is just one manifestation, therefore only has one ruling. So anybody who comes with a contrary ruling is, seen as ahlul bid'ah, right? Or something else, right? Or even worse, obviously, from the khawarij, right? So, and the way he does this is he identifies various sins and proves that from the Quran that al-hukm, it can mean just sinning, right? And this is true. It can mean sinning, right? So he establishes that minor sins can be from al-hukm bighayri ma anzal Allah. And then he also mentions that also on a political level, it can also be al-hukm bighayri ma anzal Allah. He lumps them together, and he basically implies that, okay, these are all al-hukm bighayri ma anzal Allah, and therefore it only has one ruling, one hukum. And he deceivingly mentions the statement of Ibn Abbas, لَيْسَ الْكُفْرِ الَّذِي تَذْهَبُونَ إِلَيْهِ. It is not the kufr that you're going to, right? So he mentions this, and he thinks that this is like an airtight argument. And wallahi, this is ajib. To be honest, I'm surprised that his audience are not offended by this. It's basically implying you guys can't read, or are basically idiots in a way, that you guys don't know that Ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala anhuma has multiple statements on this, right? He has multiple statements. And you can just go to a tafsir, the tafsir of Imam al-Tabari rahimahullah ta'ala. You'll know what Ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala anhuma said, right? And what Imam Abu Ja'far al-Tabari rahimahullah said in regards to the statement of Ibn Abbas, right? So this is deception that is put forward by this individual. And wallahi, it's very, very important to notice how he makes these subtle jumps, because these are phantom arguments. Nobody actually says that every sin makes you a kafir. I've never in my life heard anybody put forward this argument, right? So again, his logic is, if an individual identifies an action, such as knowingly replacing the law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, let alone replacing the entire sharia of Allah, if you identify that as kufr, and you cite the ayah, وَمَنْ لَمْ يَحْكُمْ بِمَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْكَافِرُونَ, he deceivingly extrapolates that since you made takfir of this one manifestation of al-hukm bighayri ma anzal Allah, therefore you must make takfir of every single manifestation of al-hukm bighayri ma anzal Allah, including minor sins. And this is where the deception and lie is, in order to justify making the jump to calling Muslims khawarij, and thus making their blood halal. Allah al-musta'an.
Does that make sense? So that means you're going to become a kafir if today you didn't judge according to... If you bash today, you become a kafir according to these guys. If you looked at a girl, you slid into her DMs, you became a kafir. Does that make sense? And then, pay attention. This is why we say these people are khawarij. People are khawarij. People are khawarij. And this is why you have to take the tafsir of the Salaf. Abdullah ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhum ajma'in was the one who explained this ayah. And who was he? He was the one the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam made dua for him. The Prophet said, Allahumma faqihhu fi din wa allimhu ta'wil. Oh Allah, give him deep understanding of the religion and teach him the interpretation. Interpretation of the Quran. So he understood it. So how did he explain the verse? He said, this kafirun here, this kufr here, this disbelief here. He said, this is not the kufr that you guys are running around with. It's not the major kufr. This is kufrun duna kufrin. It's the kufr that's lesser than the major kufr. It's the minor kufr. Even in Sahih Bukhari, and we're not going to say Sahih Bukhari is a Murji'ee and Sahih Bukhari doesn't understand Iman and Kufr and so on and so forth. In Kitab al-Iman, the book of Iman, which is the second book that he brings in the Sahih after Kitab was it Kitab Bada' al-Wahy? Yeah, the Kitab when the beginning of the revelation started. So Kitab al-Iman, what did he say? He said, he has a chaptering, okay? He says Kufrun duna kufr, okay? Or something like that, he chapters it. Basically he mentions the minor kufr.
He's right. We're not going to say Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah ta'ala didn't understand Iman and Kufr. We're going to say you don't understand Iman and Kufr, right? Because you're bringing up all these evidences that have nothing to do with your point, right? Imam al-Bukhari titling a chapter that there is such a thing as minor Kufr and giving a proof for it does not prove your point in the slightest, right? Nobody is discounting that there is such a thing as minor Kufr, right? You're the one who just says there's only minor Kufr with regards to the aspect of this ayah, the application of this ayah, right? What we're saying and what Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah say is that there's tafsil in the matter. It depends on the circumstances whether or not you apply major or minor kufr to it. There's tafsil. You people are allergic to this word, tafsil, and you just like to sensationalize everything you talk about. Oh, he's bashing and you slide into our DM. This is all you're good for. You talk all this nonsense and you stigmatize and you sensationalize everything. You don't talk any substance, right? What is the point that Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah ta'ala chaptering a title of Kufran Duna Kufr? That has nothing to do with your point, right? You're basically trying to prove the notion that, there is such thing as minor kufr. And here, see, look, Imam al-Bukhari even says there's such a thing as minor kufr. Nobody disagreed with you in that regard. What we're saying is that this application of this ayah is not only minor kufr.
So then if you ask me, the reason I don't do takfir on the rulers, and it's not in my position to do takfir anyway, by the way, it's takfir is something that's an issue of ijtihad, okay? If I come to you and I say to you, Akhi, what's the ruling on binary trading? You're going to say, Allahu Alam, this is a new contemporary issue, you have to ask the ulama. That's with regards to issues that are sub-branches of the religion. Issues of Iman and Kufr are foundations of the religion. You're quick to pass a fatwa and say, I would do takfir on him, don't worry, he's a kafir. But if I ask you, Akhi, what's the fatwa on tahara in this situation? You say, Akhi, I don't know how to clean my bum. Please ask the sheikh. I don't know how to clean my bum. Do you understand? So you want to give fatwa on issues that are major foundational issues of the religion, Kufr and Iman, but you don't want to give it on sub-branch issues like tahara and so on and so forth. Does that make sense? So it's not even for you to even ask, Brother Imran, why don't you do takfir on the rulers? It doesn't even make sense. It's not even my position. It's only for the mufti, the qadi, the mujtahid to do takfir on the rulers.
Allahul Musta'an. Allahul Musta'an. Do you see how this individual is superimposing his opinion on a matter that was not even in question, a matter that he's not even discussing? He's discussing al-hukm bi ghayri ma anzal Allah, and he diverts and gives his statement on, al-kufr is only for the qadi or the mufti, and it's a ijtihadi matter. This is nonsense. This is nonsense. There's tafsil in the matter. Again, notice how these individuals, they're allergic to tafsil. They can't hold themselves up to the standard of discussing things in tafsil, because then people will know these guys are full of it, right? These guys are ignoramuses. So sometimes it is an ijtihadi matter. Sometimes it is a matter related directly to your iman as in if you don't make takfir, you become a kafir yourself, right? There's tafsil in the matter. He can't be making these blanket statements with regards to this topic. It's academically dishonest. He just sensationalizes the matter by mentioning this bogus example of, oh, you can't even give me a fatwa on tahara, but you're giving fatwa or you're making takfir on iman and kufr. When in reality, if you do not make takfir of certain individuals, you become a kafir yourself, right? If you see an individual worshipping a grave, right? If you see an individual worshipping a grave and you be like, no, I can't make takfir of him, or you withhold takfir, you become a kafir yourself, man. You become a kafir yourself. And the way that he deceives his audience is that there are statements of the ulama, and this is true, that the ulama have the power to apply the hadd of takfir. The qadi, the mufti, has the authority to apply the hadd of takfir, right? Because takfir is a hukm shari, in the sense that it has a hadd, right? There's a shari component to it that you must apply, and that can only be applied by a governmental authority, right? It's not for the layman to go and apply the hudud, right, in an Islamic government or in an Islamic state.
But then there's a shubha that these men bring. It's very important shubha that they bring, yeah? They'll say, no. This is a powerful point, yeah? They'll say, no, listen. We agree that it is minor kufr, because of everything that you just said. But we will say he's only becoming a kafir if he totally removes the law of Allah from his life, from the country. He takes the Quran and the Sunnah away and he places secularism. He places democracy. He takes the book of Allah away and he says, we're going to run by democracy. He changes the whole system. Pay attention, it's powerful, yeah? Does that sound deep? He said, look, he changed the whole law. So he's a kafir now.
أحسن الله إليكم صاحب الفضيلة، وأسئلة كثيرة جاءت تسأل عن تنظيم القوانين الوضعية وتقنينها، وعن حكم المبدل لشرع الله عز وجل، هل هو كفر أكبر أم كفر أصغر؟
لا يجوز تنظيم القوانين الوضعية وتنظيمها وتقعيدها، لأنها من حكم الطاغوت، وهذا من التعاون على الإثم والعدوان. كتابتها وتنظيمها وطباعتها هذا من التعاون على الإثم والعدوان، لأنها حكم الطاغوت. وأما التبديل هذا ما يجوز لأحد يبدل شرع الله تبديل، ولكن الاستبدال أنه يستبدل شرع الله بها ويجعلها محل عن شرع الله ويحكم بها، هذا كفر. قال جل وعلا: ومن لم يحكم بما أنزل الله فأولئك هم الكافرون. هذا ما يسمى تبديل، هذا يسمى استبدال. أما التبديل لو بدل الآيات وحط محلها غيره، هذا التبديل. أو بدل ألفاظ الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم وجعل مكانها غيرها كما فعل اليهود في التوراة، هذا التبديل. نعم.
Say, Akhi, but we just affirmed a second ago that hukum here doesn't just refer to on a government level. It only refers to the government and your personal life. So what if he changed the whole legislation? But he still prays and he still gives zakat. On a government level, he doesn't judge by Allah's law, but in his life he does.
هؤلاء المحكمون للقوانين ليست قضية معينة خالفوا فيها الكتاب والسنة لهوى أو لظلم، ولكنهم استبدلوا الدين بهذا القانون، جعلوا هذا القانون يحل محل شريعة الله، وهذا كفر. حتى لو صاموا وصلوا وتصدقوا وحجوا فهم كفار.
Another shubha they bring is they say, again, look, another way to answer that shubha, they say he will only become a kafir if he changes the whole law. So we say, okay, so that means you're basing the kufr on the number of sins. We say, what's your evidence for the number? And to prove that it's a number.
It is his very same faulty and deceptive understanding of al-hukmi bighayri ma anzal Allah which led him to such a ridiculous response. Him likening all manifestations of al-hukmi bighayri ma anzal Allah as being the same, and likewise applying a one-size-fits-all hukm of minor kufr. What's really sad and pathetic is his level of negligence with regards to the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and his arrogance to think he's worthy of speaking about a topic which those who he holds in high esteem have already spoken about, as you've seen. Further, it shows this individual's lack of familiarity with the Quran. And did you notice how he made a subtle jump from, you guys are basing your takfir on a number of sins, and then he just jumps into a separate topic of what's the evidence for the number. Again, this has absolutely nothing to do with the topic of al-hukmi bighayri ma anzal Allah. Al-hukmi bighayri ma anzal Allah has different manifestations. When he cited the ayah, يتوارى من القوم من سوء ما بشر به أيمسكه على هون أم يدسه في التراب ألا ساء ما يحكمون.
Because if I think in Surah An-Nahl, Allah He talked about the people who bury their daughters alive. When they bury their daughters alive, what did Allah say? ساء ما يحكمون. Evil is what they are judging.
Right, and this is the ayah that he used as proof that al-hukm is just a minor sin. Because right, burying your daughters is not inherently kufr. Right? But does he not know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also says, وَجَعَلُوا لِلَّهِ مِمَّا ذَرَأَ مِنَ الْحَرْثِ وَالْأَنْعَامِ نَصِيبًا فقالوا هذا لله بزعمهم وهذا لشركائنا فما كان لشركائهم فلا يصل إلى الله وما كان لله فهو يصل إلى شركائهم ساء ما يحكمون. Right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, ساء ما يحكمون. So these two are two different manifestations of al-hukmi bighayri ma anzal Allah. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, ساء ما يحكمون. Are you going to judge the two as being the same? One of them is clear shirk and one of them is not inherently kufr. Are you going to judge them the same? Using Dawahman's logic, this is the same. These are the same manifestations of al-hukmi bighayri ma anzal Allah. Therefore, they should have the same hukum of minor kufr. But again, this just goes to show again, this individual is a jahil and should not be anywhere near the scene of calling to the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He should sit in the corner and learn.
But a person can become a disbeliever by judging by other than Allah's law if the heart becomes involved. For example, he says, I believe that secularism is equal to the Quran. Or I believe that the secularism or democracy is better than the Quran. Or if he believes that it does istihlal, he says, I believe democracy is halal for me to do. But this you will not know unless you ask him. You have to ask him. He has to say, it's to bring it from his mouth. Because it's the action of the heart.
أما من استحل الحكم بغير ما أنزل الله ورآه جائزا ولو قال إن الشريعة أفضل منه ولو زعم هذا الزعم فإنه يكون كافرا كفرا أكبر نعوذ بالله.
كيف لا يكفر هذا المشرك؟ لأن نفسه ندا مع الله جل وعلا.
اي نعم ما في اشكال.
يعني بدون ولو لم يعتبر
ابدا ما دام انه جعل هذا الشرع يجب المشي عليه هذا لا شك انه جعل نفسه ندا مع الله.
Usama ibn Zayd radiyallahu anhu, he killed the man on the battlefield. The man said, La ilaha illallah, just before he died. Pay attention, look how deep this is. The man is killing Muslims on the battlefield, and Usama is about to kill him. Just before Usama is about to kill him, he says, La ilaha illallah. So you'd think to yourself, right, he's obviously only doing this just because he doesn't want to get killed, right? So Usama said, no, this guy's lying. He killed him. He killed him. And then when he came back to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to him, Ya Usama, what did you do? You killed a man, he said, La ilaha illallah. What are you going to do when La ilaha illallah comes in the day of judgment? And then he tried to explain to the Prophet, no, he was only saying it because I was going to kill him. The Prophet said, Ashaqaqta qalbih, did you cut open his heart? It's the action of the heart. You don't know if he's lying or not. Does that make sense?
And subhanAllah, he uses this event of the noble Sahabi radiyallahu ta'ala an to try and prove his point, not knowing that the story is a proof against him. The event of the Sahabi killing the man is meant to be taken that we judge by the apparent, right? And that we don't dwell or assume on what's in the hearts of men, right? So, أَفَشَقَقْتَ قَلْبَ, this is meant to be taken that you don't look or you don't dwell or assume what's in the hearts of men. If they show Islam, we take them as Muslims. And likewise, if they show major shirk, then we take them as mushrikeen. So if someone legislates a law that permits alcohol, or that he abolishes the had for extramarital sex, we judge by the apparent, no matter what they say, right? Even if they don't even do it, right? Even if they don't even drink alcohol, and they say, I don't even like alcohol, but they legislate a law that permits alcohol, right? They have made it allowed for the whole country, right? And this is istihlal, right? And if you say istihlal can only be done by way of heart, then this is textbook irja, right? And I don't think he would even dare say that, because then that would just expose him to be the Murji'ee that he actually is, right? So, going back to the point of judging by the apparent, right? If they do any of these acts that legislate a law contradictory to the law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, any law of Allah, even if it's just one, right? Then they have taken themselves as partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Since rejecting parts of the book is the same as rejecting the entirety of the book, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَفَتُؤْمِنُونَ بِبَعْضِ الْكِتَابِ وَتَكْفُرُونَ بِبَعْضِ فَمَا جَزَاءُ مَنْ يَفْعَلُ ذَلِكَ مِنْكُمْ إِلَّا خِزْيٌ فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا وَيَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ يُرَدُّونَ إِلَىٰ أَشَدِّ الْعَذَابِ وَمَا اللَّهُ بِغَافِلٍ عَمَّا تَعْمَلُونَ.
هذه المسألة، وهي مسألة التحاكم إلى غير شرع الله، من المسائل التي يقع فيها خلط كثير، خاصة عند الشباب، وذلك في هذه البلاد وفي غيرها، وهي من أسباب تفرق المسلمين، لأن نظر الناس فيها لم يكن واحدا. والواجب أن يتحرى طالب العلم ما دلت عليه الأدلة وما بين العلماء من معاني تلك الأدلة وما فقهوه من أصول الشرع والتوحيد وما بينوه في تلك المسائل. ومن أوجه الخلط في ذلك أنهم جعلوا المسألة في مسألة الحكم والتحاكم واحدة، يعني جعلوها صورة واحدة، وهي متعددة الصور. فمن صورها أن يكون هناك تشريع لتقنين مستقل يضاهى به حكم الله جل وعلا، يعني قانون مستقل يشرع. هذا التقنين من حيث وضعه كفر، والواضع له يعني المشرع والسان لذلك وجاعل هذا التشريع منسوبا إليه وهو الذي حكم بهذه الأحكام، هذا المشرع كافر، وكفره ظاهر لأنه جعل نفسه طاغوتا فدعا الناس إلى عبادته وهو راض عبادة الطاعة.
That's why we don't make different rules. وأني مثلا
هذا اعتقاد الشافعي ومالك وأبي حنيفة ثم أحمد ينقل فإن اتبعت سبيلهم فموحد، وإن ابتدعت فما عليك معول.